Hi everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we will be completing in today's video. If you are new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials, so if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe. Otherwise, before we get started, the only thing you'll need to do is download the color palette that I have linked in the description below. It's totally free to download. Once you download the file, just open it up and it'll automatically pop into Procreate so that you can use the same colors as you follow along with the video. So take a second to go grab that and then come back and we will get started. Okay, first things first, we'll go over our canvas dimensions. They are going to be 10 inches by 10 inches at 300 dpi. And the color profile that we're going to use is the second color profile in the RGB list. And by the end of the video, we have about 10 layers. So make sure you have that many layers available. If you do not, you can lower your DPI here to get more layers. Okay, and then this is our color palette. It's only 8 colors. We have mostly like the sky and the ocean, and then the buildings and the rings. And the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to start on layer 1, and we are going to grab our first color on the color palette. Okay, and we are going to click on the selection tool, turn on rectangle and color fill as your options, and we're going to drag a rectangle to fill the entire bottom half of the canvas right about at the halfway point. Cover the whole thing and then let it go and it'll fill it in. I got mine a little bit too high, so I'm going to click on the arrow tool and drag it down just a little bit. Okay, and that is going to be our ocean. So now we are going to add a new layer on top of this in the layer menu. Click on that layer, turn on clipping mask, and then we're going to go to our color palette and grab the third color on the top row, and then go to our brush menu, and we are going to find the elements section and click on oceans. And that is the brush that we're going to use. So we are just going to, keeping your canvas perfectly like straight. You don't want it tilted at all because then it'll draw your waves, you know, at an angle. So we want to keep our canvas straight, and we are just going to set the size to about 70%. And we are going to lightly draw some waves. We don't need to fill the entire thing, just kind of in little sections. Go to your color palette and select the last color on the top row and do the same thing on that same layer, just kind of adding some more depth to our little ocean here. Okay, now that that's done, we are going to add a new layer, and we are going to drag it below our water layer that we just created above the background. Go to our color palette, select the first color on the second row, and then go back to our selection tool, rectangle and color fill still turned on. And now we're going to draw the buildings in the background. So I'm just going to start on the left side here and draw a rectangle. And then we're going to draw another rectangle that's a little taller, another one that's shorter but like wider. And we're just going to do this all the way across, varying our like thickness and our heights of the buildings as we go. Okay, and then once you've done that all the way across, this is what it'll look like after you undo the selection. And then we are going to add the windows. So we are going to add a new layer on top of this layer in the layer menu, and then we're going to go to our color palette and select the second color on the second row, and then same thing again, selection tool, rectangle and color fill turned on. And we're going to do a very similar thing, but just kind of creating windows across the buildings. They don't have to be precise. We are just going to draw different rectangles square shapes, some tall, some fat, some more square-like. They're not really like lined up or anything with anything in particular, they're just kind of random. And we'll just do this for all the buildings. Okay, so then you can click on the arrow tool and it'll kind of, take away all the little selection lines that were there. And now you see we have all of our buildings and all of our windows. So now we're going to add a little bit of glow to the windows. So we are going to go to our layer menu, make a duplicate of this layer that we just created by sliding left and clicking duplicate. Select the bottom one and then click on the layer, turn on alpha lock. Go to the color palette, select the third color in the second row, and then go back to the layer menu, the same layer that we were on, click on that layer again and click fill layer, and that will turn all of the windows the really bright white color. You can't see them since they're behind our other layer, but then let's go and click on this layer again, turn off alpha lock, click on the wand tool, click Gaussian Blur, layer, and drag this to about 10% or so to add a nice glow around our windows. Okay, and now that we have all of our buildings done, we're going to work on the sky in the background before we move on to our rings. So the first thing that we need to do is fill the background color. We didn't do that yet because it's the same color as the ocean and that would get kind of hard to see. So now though, we are going to go to our layer menu, click on this last layer that's called background color, and then it'll pop up your color palettes and your colors. So let's select this first color on the first row here to fill that in with that dark purple. Okay, and then we are going to go to our layer menu, add a new layer, drag it right above the background color that we just filled in. And then we are going to go to our color palette, select the second color on the top row, and go to our brushes and select the calligraphy menu and monoline brush. And then we are going to set our size to about 70%. And I'm just going to create some streaks throughout the sky. So I'm going to draw a line, hold my pen down until it turns into a perfectly straight line. Let's draw another line this way and hold it so it's straight again. And then we're going to fill in between that to create this little streak. Another thing that we're going to do now is add another shape in the sky similarly, but it's not going to go all the way across. So we're going to drag our pen, hold it down until it turns into a line. Starting here, we're going to do the same thing on the way back. And then fill that shape in. And let's just make a few more of those to kind of fill out our sky. Next, let's add some stars to the sky. We are going to go to our layer menu, add a new layer on top of this one. Then we are going to click on our color palette, select this last color on the second row, and go to our brush menu and select the airbrushing category and the soft airbrush, this one here. Our size is about 15%, and we're just going to draw some circular shapes to make some stars in the sky. The nice thing about the soft brush is that it kind of already adds like a little glow on the outside. We'll make some of them bigger, some of them smaller, and just kind of scatter them throughout the sky here. Let's add another one here, kind of fill in all of our little spaces. Okay, and then the last step is to add our rings and kind of finish off the water. So we are going to do that now. We are going to go to our layer menu, add a new layer at the top of everything, go to our color palette, select this bright white color, the third one on the second row. And then in our brushes, we are going to go back to the calligraphy menu and back to our monoline brush. Let's set that to just 100, as big as it'll get. If you're using a smaller canvas, it might be a little bit too big. So just kind of gauge that as we start drawing our rings, if it seems a little too bold or too thick. So what we're going to do is just start kind of up here above our city, and we're going to draw a circle shape. Hold your pen down at the end and then touch your finger on the screen to make it a perfect circle. Find a size that you like. We're obviously going to need 5 of them, so this might be a teeny bit too big, so I'm going to click the arrow tool, turn on uniform, and drag it down just a little bit. And this one's going to go roughly over here. We can rearrange them in a bit, but I will just throw it right there. And then to make sure they're all the same size, we're going to make duplicates. So let's go to our layer menu, slide to the left on this, click duplicate, click on the arrow tool, make sure snapping and magnetics are turned on. And we are going to first do the 3 that are on the top row. So go ahead and drag this over a bit, and you want to leave just the smallest little space in between them. That will make sure that they're all kind of lined up at the end, but just a little bit of space there. Do the same thing, make another duplicate, arrow tool, drag that to the right and leave a similar space right there. Okay, then we will go back to our layer menu, make another duplicate of this layer, click on the arrow tool, and this time we're going to actually turn off snapping and magnetics, and we are going to drag this one down to the second row here, so there will be 2 down here. And this one we're going to line up with the top part of the circle about halfway horizontally through these circles and then in between these two, so you see about an even little slice of the circles on each side of this, just like that. And then when you get that in the right position, go back to your layer menu, make a duplicate of that layer, click on your arrow tool, turn on snapping and magnetics again so that it'll stay in line, and drag it over this way again until it lines up pretty well between these circles here so that you see a good slice of those and it looks even in between them. And then when you have all 5 of them lined up like that, go to your layer menu, drag your fingers on all 5 of these to turn them together into one layer. Okay, and then we are going to make a duplicate of this layer. Click on the bottom one, click on the wand tool, Gaussian Blur, layer, and let's drag that to about 25%. And it's not quite thick enough, so I'm going to go back to the layer menu, make a duplicate of this layer so it's a bit brighter, and we can maybe turn the opacity down on that. So click on the N, slide the opacity down to maybe 70%, and then you can drag these 2 layers together on the layer menu as well so that that is there. Now that we have that done, let's go to our layers menu, select this layer, slide to the right to select this layer as well with our original rings on it. Click on the arrow tool, and now we can kind of line this up a little better. So we want it to be in the middle of the canvas, so when you see that yellow line, that means it's in the middle left to right. And then we want it to be right above our water. We don't want to see the glow on the water from them necessarily, so make sure they're high enough for that. But get them as close to the middle as you can. Perfect. So that's about where we want the rings to be. And the last thing that we're going to do is create the reflection in the water. So we are going to go to our layer menu. Okay, so we are going to make a duplicate of this original ring layer. We're going to go to our original window layer, the yellow one, make a duplicate of that, and our star layer, make a duplicate of that, and then select the star layer, select the copy of the window layer, and select the copy of the ring layer. Click on group to group them together. It's going to take them all the way down here. So let's drag the group above the water layers below the rings. And then let's click on this group and click flatten. So that'll turn it all into one layer, all those layers that we had selected. Click on the arrow tool, click on flip vertical, and then drag that down above the water. And we are going to turn on freeform, and we're actually going to drag this bottom part up just a little bit so that it's a little bit of a different perspective since it's on the water. Just kind of make it a little skinnier. And then we are going to click on the wand tool, click on Gaussian Blur, layer, our favorite thing ever. And we're going to turn the blur up to let's do about 20%. And we are going to click on our layer menu, click on the N here, and drag the opacity down to about 80%, make it a little less bright. And then while we're on this layer, we are going to go to our color palette, select the white color if it isn't already selected, the 3rd color on the last row, and we're going to go to our brush and the airbrushing category, the soft airbrush, and we are just going to lightly draw some more light kind of reflecting towards the top of the water here, very lightly, and then make it a little thicker right where the edge of the water is. And then obviously we don't want it in front of our building, so we are going to click on this layer, click on it, and click clipping mask. So it should be right above the water, so don't drag it all the way to the top of the screen, but clip it to this water layer here. And that will get rid of all that other stuff that was sitting there. And then the very last thing that we're going to do is add a little bit more light in the water. So we are going to grab our color palette, grab the last color on the 2nd row, go back to our brush menu and go back to elements and oceans. And then we're going to go to our layer menu, and we want to be on this wave layer that we created originally. So the first clipping mask on our water. And we're just going to randomly add a little bit more light waves that are kind of glowing. Kind of keep them close to where the ring reflection is, close to where that light's reflecting from the skyline. You can add a little bit more kind of on the outsides, but just to give it some more detail. Okay, and that is it for this drawing. I hope you had fun. If you did, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, if you want to see more tutorials from me. And if you would like to share your drawing on Instagram, please do so and tag me so that I can check it out. While you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so that you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching!